Hi everybody, I'm Ricky Levon, author of When Roses Cry. There are 3 short stories that are free and connected to this book. In this video, I will be reading the short story, Holly's Sentinel. For more on When Roses Cry, or to read the other short stories and free chapters, click on the links in the description below. Thanks for your support and enjoy. Holly's Sentinel, a When Roses Cry short story. The best time to visit America's roller coaster is during the weekday. At least that's what Spencer heard Esmeralda say. He didn't know if there was a difference and thought it was a little arrogant to call yourself the best amusement park in America. He had a fantastic time at the multiple amusement parks in Southern California. Six Flags Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry, and California Adventure were places he visited regularly. "Are we there yet?" June said. She sat next to Spencer, her boyfriend, in the back seat of Lewis's car. Esmeralda, Spencer's 1 year younger aunt, sat in the passenger seat next to her boyfriend Lewis. All 4 of the friends were on their way to Cedar Point. June was excited at the impending rush of fast and scary rides. She loved roller coasters and thrill rides, whereas Spencer was shaky about both. "Almost," Esmeralda responded. "Once we get through the town, we'll be right there." From Columbus, getting to Sandusky meant going from a major freeway to riding through a few small towns. In spite of that, it never stopped people from the capital city to visit the lakeside amusement park in huge numbers. Spencer was a little wary of going on the trip due to the incident at the Iron Eagle Club. They didn't talk about it after they left, but falling in the bathroom, hurting himself, and accidentally dancing with a man was not what he intended. He had to assume that nothing weird would happen at Cedar Point. "She has something. I know it," Spencer thought. If it wasn't for the excursion, he planned to look up information on June. He knew her switching behavior and attitude was not a coincidence. Spencer had his belief on what June was suffering from, but decided to forget about it. He wanted to enjoy himself while in Sandusky and rubbed his girlfriend's hand. 10 minutes after June asked the question, they were pulling into the parking lot. They could see a few of the roller coasters from the car, and Spencer thought he could hear faint screams. His hand shook a little, but he would overcome that nervous feeling and get on whatever ride the group decided. Spencer wasn't fond of heights, so even when he came to Ohio from California to stay with Esmeralda for a year, he drove. He could have flew and had his stuff mailed, but he wanted to see America. While in California, Spencer rode Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry, California Screamin' at Disney's California Adventure, and Riddler's Revenge at Six Flags Magic Mountain. He was amazed that he rode those type of thrill rides, but when he's in a group, he goes to where they want. "This is a real park, so no fighting," Esmeralda said. She had a smile on her face as the 4 walked towards the front gate. The group laughed. They knew the last time Spencer and June went to a park, a huge fight happened with her ex-boyfriend's friends. Spencer and June were fine, but many of them were sent to the hospital. After an hour in Cedar Point, Spencer noticed the lines were moderate and moving quickly. The weather was perfect and sunny. He didn't tell Esmeralda that she was right about going to the amusement park during the weekday. Spencer glanced her way and smiled. "Told you it was better to come during the weekday," Esmeralda said. "What? You noticed the lines." "I can tell," she responded. Spencer was going to respond when he heard some yelling to the side. At first he assumed it was the usual screams from people on the nearest roller coaster to the front. His assumption changed when June looked over to the side with a scowl. "No, I don't want to go on that," a short blonde-haired woman said. She struggled to break the grip from a tallish guy with pale features. "It looks scary." "Shut up, you're embarrassing me," he said. "It's only a glorified swing that spins." They were pointing to a ride that Lewis and Esmeralda were heading towards. Max Air was a large 140-foot pendulum ride that swung back and forth while the base spins in a circle. Spencer read a blog that someone said it felt like being on a large figure eight. When they first entered the park, the foursome got on the Raptor. a bright green and black inverted roller coaster that was surprisingly smooth to Spencer. However, it shocked his system with its speed and inversion, so Spencer had to rest for a moment until the dizziness left. When Spencer was fine, they walked to Max Air and looked to the blonde-haired stranger. For a brief moment, he felt like the unknown blonde and didn't want to get on the thrill ride himself. "I should help her," Spencer's girlfriend said. Spencer looked down at his girlfriend and noticed her voice was different. It was low and had a slight rasp. Normally her tones were light and bubbly. "Who?" he responded. She tilted her chin towards the girl who reluctantly followed her boyfriend to the ride. "Don't worry about it," Spencer said. He started walking towards Lewis and Esmeralda. "I'm sure she's fine." During the wait in line, there were more arguing about but almost everyone ignored it. Spencer tried to concentrate on the super swing before him, but his girlfriend thought otherwise. "I swear he better not hurt her." "Let it go, June," Spencer said. Her head snapped quickly at him and she sighed. Spencer assumed June was bipolar. He was only partially right. June had multiple personality disorder, or sometimes referred to as dissociative identity disorder. This was a condition where many personalities or identities take up space in one mind. The identity Spencer believed was June actually went by Hera. She was a strong, take action first kind of personality. Her only thought was to protect those who needed it. Hera could tell the blonde-haired woman needed help and made it her mission to fulfill that. After the ride, Hera made her way to the restroom. She saw the blonde-haired woman go there after hurling some breakfast when the ride ended. Hera had a map and told her companions that she would meet them at the next ride. She knew the next one was the U-shaped twisted roller coaster called Wicked Twister. "Are you okay?" Hera asked and tapped on the bathroom stall. There were a few sniffs and some heavy breathing. The person inside had been crying. Hera knew those tears were not from the thrill ride they exited, but from her boyfriend. The restroom was dandelion yellow with a gray and pink border. It was sparsely filled with women. Most had relieved themselves of the highly priced sodas from the various vendors and machines. Others reapplied makeup that had been rinsed off from the water rides. "Yes," she responded. "I'm not talking about your stomach illness," Hera said. The toilet flushed and she waited for the blonde woman to come out. "I mean about him." The blonde paused, looked at Hera, and made her way to the sink. I don't know what you're talking about," she said, "but my stomach is better." Hera paused, and then stood next to the sink beside her. "June," Hera said. She hated being someone else, but knew it was necessary. It was easier for the different personalities to have one name. Their condition was rare compared to other people with the disorder. Her psychologist had never seen a group of identities work well with each other. Most people with NPD had identities that barely knew each other existed. Might alone work with one another. "Excuse me?" the woman said. "My name is June," Hera said. "What's yours?" "Holly," she responded. Her head turned down and continued washing her hands. There was an uncomfortable pause. Hera broke the silence. "I'm talking about him," Hera said. She stopped washing her hands. A few people entered, others left. No one paid attention to them. "I know abuse when I see it." Holly was going to refute her. She thought about lying to this stranger like she had to herself. Holly shook the excess water from her hands and stared at Hera. "I'm okay," Holly replied, and then her lips trembled. Before she could help herself, she hugged Hera and cried. Hera was unlike June. She didn't feel comfortable with soft emotions, especially crying people. Hera looked, ignored the few women in the restroom, and hugged Holly back. "Have you been through it too?" Holly asked. "Yes." They talked for a while. Holly was from Columbus like Hera. She earned a college degree from Ohio Dominican, but believed she could do more. Holly met Scott, her boyfriend, at a party. They liked each other the instant they met. Holly felt like she was more in love with him than he was with her. She didn't mind. Due to his status, she felt honored to be in a relationship with him. Scott was educated and had money. He was aligned to become the president of a company that made fruit snacks. Didn't seem like much to Holly at first, but the family business was worth $300 million. Scott could not wait to take his place as CEO. So he thinks he can control you, Hera said. Yes, Holly responded, because he's going to be an important man. He thinks he can rule my every action and thought. He doesn't want a girlfriend. He wants a handmaid, Hera said. A slave. I wouldn't go that far, but I do see leave. Holly looked around the room and then at Hera. Okay? Not from here, Hera said, and grabbed Holly's arm as she turned to leave. For the first time, Holly noticed that her new friend was about the same height as herself. In spite of this, she appeared stronger compared to her size. I'm saying from him, Hera responded. It's not easy. I know. You had to leave, Holly started. I mean, from an abusive man? Yes, Hera responded. It wasn't easy. But with force, I ended it. They talked for a few minutes and left the restroom. Just as the two exited the door, Scott grabbed Holly and slammed her against the wall. Her breath was momentarily knocked out as she struggled to free his grip. What took you so long? Scott shouted. Let her go, Hera said. She wanted to revert to her former self and hospitalize Scott. Hera glanced around and noticed a small crowd forming. She didn't want to be kicked out of Cedar Point for fighting a stranger. Scott's head snapped around at Hera. Who are you? Let her go, Hera demanded. Holly continued to struggle. She was trying to free herself but couldn't. Hera clenched her fists. She didn't want to fight but would do what was necessary to help Holly. You've been warned, Hera announced. Scott turned his attention to Holly. I thought you left me, Scott said. Hera grabbed Scott's arm. No mercy, Hera grimaced. Scott ignored her until Hera slammed her hand into his shoulder and kicked him in the back of the leg. Scott shook off the hits and released Holly. Hera smiled and kicked Scott in the leg once more. She stepped back when he threw a wild punch. Hera, from the one swing, knew that either Scott couldn't fight or was in pain. This made no difference to Hera, who was a trained black belt and had practiced from the various prize fighting clubs in Cincinnati as a child. Hera danced around Holly's boyfriend and noticed some of the people in the area cheering. She punched him in the face a few times. This was fun for her, but she had to stop the fight. Scott stumbled towards Hera and was about to attack. He couldn't muster enough energy and fell down from the injuries. Hera knew there were at least 5 different ways she could seriously hospitalize him. She blew out a deep breath and looked at Holly. She glanced around, noticed a few guards coming in their direction. Just past them, she could see her friends from Columbus standing and watching the action. The offer still stands. You sure your friends won't mind? Nope, Hera responded. Besides, you saw what I can do to him. They both laughed. The security guards came and asked them questions to decipher the situation. They apprehended Scott after realizing that he was a troublemaker. Holly finished the day with Hera, who became June again, as well as Spencer, Esmeralda, and Lewis. Holly knew it would be hard to end her relationship with Scott, but had hope because of people like Hera. The thought of someone seeking her out so they could help was amazing. Holly's new life began at Cedar Point. It was all due to a stranger she met in the bathroom.